Hi, this is Mike of Nearly Enough Dice, and this is the Kerbal Space Program. This is Pallas VII, which is now nicely landed upon the moon. And I have two processing cores on this for coding purposes. I've got this big one, and I've got this small one. I'm just going to move those windows out. In fact, I'm just going to turn off. Turn that off. Right, so this is actually for debugging. Eventually I'm going to want to do everything on one script. But what this does allow me to do is I've got what did I call this? Did I call it the deck show? Yes. What I've done is I've hard coded one of the waypoints into a little routine called Vec Show. And what this is doing is it's pointing an arrow towards this waypoint here, which is site Q7P8 beta, which is one of the temperature scan places that I want to go to. And what that means is I can go here and I can run the PID hover program. Completely separately. So those two programs now run nice and separately. I'm going to give myself a bit more room. Because I, on occasion, run into things which I don't want to do. So, these two routines now run completely separately. So, that means I don't need to write one single piece of code that is simultaneously going to keep my rocket hovering. Do you know, I think I'm going to do something different. But also displays where I'm trying to point. Why isn't that working? Oh, I know why that's not working. Oh, I forgot the preserve keyword. I have a thing where action group 3, in other words, hitting the 3 key, is meant to point me up. Only it's a slightly clever version where it points me up, but doesn't care which way my roll is. Or more accurately, it takes the roll from whatever roll I've already got, and then it keeps that, so it doesn't try and rotate the craft. And because sometimes instead of just going, oh, I could go from here to here, it'll go, and you end up with going somewhere really irritating and crash horribly, probably. Well, I forgot to put the preserve keyword in, so you do it once, and then it forgets it. Never mind, I would have to land and rerun the program, so I'm not going to bother. There we go. So I can now zip along quite happily with these two programs running separately, so I don't have to worry about make it all into one big thing. If I suddenly want to decide to point to a different thing, which I'm going to do once I get this waypoint, that's exactly what I'm going to want to do. I'm going to want to look, see how long. It's going to take a while. I'm just a bit cautious about going very fast because I have crashed into the moon a few times now. Partly there's a thing. I just need to program this in properly. Basically, when it says I'm hovering 33 meters, right? What it's saying is it's hovering 33 meters above the exact center. So if you imagine the exact center of that little circle of light beneath it, it's 33 meters beneath that exactly. But if the ground is sloping, this bit here, say, imagine the point immediately between those two circles of light there. That could be, depending, 5 meters difference. And obviously that would be bad if I were to if I was to rely on the hover script. It might not catch that. It might, the slope may change quicker than it's able to adjust itself. So the slightly more sensible thing to do is to actually check not just the point directly underneath, but points on, on either side, which I have done, but not in this particular version of Pit Hover. Right, I've decided to use the RCS to do my speed as opposed to tilting, just because it seems a little bit safer. Do you think what I might do? Theoretically, I think I could do now. No, actually, I can't. I've very cleverly made it so the brakes turn both of these programs. Well, I could just hit Control C. This just says target, but theoretically, it could tell me how many meters away I am. Other such useful things. So here I am going across the surface at approximately 17 meters a second, about 30 miles an hour. What if I could do that? I'll round it to 1. Worst that happens is that I break the arrow, which I do. Oh, I know what I mean. I've not put a full stop at the end of that particular. Ooh, that worked. Sweet. So I can see how far I've got to go. Nice. So I've tried to vaguely pretty much point myself towards it. Actually, technically, I've tried to point my I'm kind of going sideways. So I could let's just turn around. So I'm now pointing pretty much directly. So if I hit I, that's going to speed me up in that direction. And I just have to worry about how quickly I am going. I mean, another thing I really probably want to do is not just is to have a slightly more clever terrain following. So basically, it looks ahead. It kind of thinks, okay, how fast am I going? Therefore, I'm going to look this many seconds ahead, and that's the height I'm going to be at. I'm going to, I'm going to take my seek height of 33 meters, and I'm going to take that as being the height, or the minimum height between directly beneath me and 2 seconds away. And I have to decide, what kind of how far do I want to look ahead? How often do I want to look ahead? Do I want to do several samples? Do I want to keep track of a maximum? Because if there's a hill that I go over, and I'm, in theory, the point I'm at and the point I'm looking ahead could pass over the hill. I don't know. The problem being obviously that the more times I do this kind of thing, why was I doing that right as I was going up a hill? That wasn't very clever. Let's go on for a bit. So I was going, oh, it's going to take forever, and therefore I'm going to zoom ahead, and there's a hill right in front of me. Like, right in front of me. So let's run into the hill. That is a clever thing that I want to do. No, it isn't. It's a stupid thing, and I don't want to do it. Ah dear. The other advantage, the other thing I want to have the two processor thing for is testing speed scripts. So I'm gonna want to hover, but also control my left and right motions. And so it would be quite nice to, while I'm testing it, have those two scripts run completely separately, and then only combine them when I'm happy with how well they work together. Because they're going to be completely separate systems. The hover script just checks the up and down, the height, and then the speed is going to check, speed, essentially. I could do other things. I mean, one of the things I could in theory do here is have this script just handles hovering, and I could constantly change the heading of the craft as a whole. Am I actually going slow, or does it just feel that way? It just feels that way. Actually, I think it's a factor of the fact that I'm going up a hill. That's going to seem slower, I think. Whereas if I look down, it's pretty clear how quickly I'm going. So here I am jaunting along. I mean, this really is. The thing is, this is really only about as fast as a rover at the minute. The rovers can go about 20 odd meters a second. If I get over this hill, I might put the throttle down. But I wonder if I can see. It's in the middle. Again, everything I want to do, it's always on the night side. I mean, the sun's beginning to come around. But, yeah. So annoying. What else have I done to the ship? I put the Werner engines on top. You saw the game crash last time. The very last thing I did was I put this illuminator here to point at this science station. As in, this thermometer thing. Thermometer and then a seismo, what's it? Drifting it this way. But really, that's not actually the reason why I want that eliminated. The reason I want that eliminated is when I'm facing that, I am aligned to the nav ball. So my forward will pitch. You know, if I hit W, my craft will go away from me in a way that makes sense to me, and left and right will point the right way. Specifically, it's, you know, the RCS things will work as I expect them to. Now I'll just come over effectively a hill, so I'm currently flying through the air, not under any kind of control. Because this pit script, the hover script, is still the one that is really tuned more to. Well, it's tuned to being on Kerbin and not on the moon. This bit is always slightly worrying, but I'm actually really quite high. Yeah. So first off, it's tuned toward being. I'm rather glad I set my height as high as I did, because otherwise that might have been bad. I actually went 10 meters below my sequence. So if I was only on 15, I might have hit something, because 15 is the default on this one. That might have been bad. My solar panels are out. Oh, well, they're in, actually, but that doesn't really matter, because it's night time anyway. Yeah, so that illuminates this one area, which means I know which way I'm pointing, which is terribly convenient. That's another big hill coming up. So I can't really let throttle go. I'm trying to look if I've just gone through a crater, but I cannot tell because it's dark. Also can't go any closer in that mode, so I can't really tell. I got tons of Delta V though, or tons of fuel, so I'm feeling good about this. Still pointing in vaguely the right direction. Sweet. A thing I need to learn to do is work out what my velocity is in terms of the ship's starboard vector and the ship's top vector, you know, starboard and top, because it's facing upwards. As far as the ship is concerned, that's starboard, and that's top, and that's fore. And so I want to be able to, at any point, depending, you know, no matter what the roll is, because the ship can be moving along and then rolling, and so where the velocity vector is, as far as the ship's orientation is concerned, will change, and so I need to be aware of that, and be able to work it out, because I can only laterally translate in those vectors. I can do, you know, fore and aft, I can do port and starboard, and I can do top and bottom, and those are my options, because that's like, I mean, obviously I can go in any other direction by combinations of those, but I only have, those are the actual vectors I have available to me. And that means trying to remember my vector maths from high school. I think I've worked it out. I think it's like you get the cross dot, you get the dot product, I think, and then you do an arc cos of that, I think. But I can't remember. And this is where this vec drawing program would vec drawing thing will be quite handy, because I could just set a hover and just go in a direction, and you know, just have the thing say, oh, okay, this is what I reckon my velocity is in terms of. So I'll have arrows pointing, you know, an arrow pointing, you know, port or starboard, saying, oh, okay, I think I'm going this direction, port starboard. This is quite a hill here. So we're actually going to go quite high up. I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to use my Vernor engines to bring me closer to. So I'm artificially pushing myself down. It's just to try and minimize that kind of bounce effect, which. Wow, the moon's really lumpy. Moon's so lumpy. Why is the moon so lumpy? Probably because it got hit by lots of meteors. Well, obviously, this moon, as opposed to the moon, this moon is lumpy because Squad decided it would be lumpy, which is fair enough. Previous versions of the moon apparently were quite smooth. There's a video of someone doing a constant altitude descent where you have the surface, and basically you set your periaps so that you're skimming the surface, and then you slow down, but you pitch your ship to make sure that your vertical speed is 0 as much as possible. I'm so pleased with that distance. But that kind of relies on the moon being rather smooth, because if there's a mountain in the way, you may well be in trouble, as I am demonstrating. Right, do I feel brave? Do I feel brave enough to go forward a bit? Brave and or stupid? My horizontal speed's quite low at the moment. I feel like I could do more. Right, let's point more in the right direction, and then I can just hit I, and then. Ooh, and as you can see, because that light started coming up, I'm already immediately a bit. Again, another great big mountain. It's not really that big, it's not really that mountainy. Feels big though. I'm drifting off to the side again, I think. That's better. So this is very leisurely. I'm obviously, part of the problem by doing this particular method, I'm using a ton of fuel. Every second, I am essentially losing, the gravity acceleration of delta V. I'm just losing that every single second that I'm hovering. So my delta V is kind of dribbling out. What do I want? I want. I'm still fine, but it is, it's something I need to think about. Go away. Go away. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what would be much more efficient, I'm pretty sure would be much more efficient, is to just kind of, launch almost, fairly shallowly, but so that my apparatus, I will clear any mountains in the way, and then, burn at the end and land nice and exactly, with the usual kind of safety margins. That I believe would be more efficient in terms of fuel. It would be quicker as well. This is taking ages. And that's actually the part of the reason why it would be quicker. Would be more efficient. It would take less fuel precisely because it's quicker. So essentially, I'm talking about suborbital ballistic trajectories, which is the skill you use to drop missiles on people. Not that that's the thing you should do. It really feels slow, but it really isn't. Yeah. So to be perfectly honest, if I really want to do this kind of traversal, if I'm doing it specifically hovering, I should try and arrange either an ion engine, but they're really low thrust, or one of those nuclear engines, but they're also really rather low thrust. Meaning, you know, it's all that balance between how much you're willing to. Let's speed up a bit. You know, it's all. Oh, there we go. There's the target. Actually, I'm beginning to see the target. Actually, that wasn't the target at all. That's a different target. I've got my old lander targeted. Because it's vaguely in the right place, or it was like extremely vaguely in the right place. So I targeted it at one point just to get an idea of some number. So here we are going up yet another slope. Have we gone down a downslope, or has it all been uphill? I can't. No. Clearly must have been downhill at some point, like there, back there. Feels like it's all been uphill. Uphill both ways in the snow, even though there's no snow on the moon. And the gravity's quite low, and it's really not that much of a hassle. But apart from that, uphill in the snow both ways. Uphill through the regolith both ways? I don't know yet. Moon dust. Is that like snow? Moon dust, do you reckon? No? Okay. Well, I'm about halfway there, compared to where I started. In fact, I think I'm slightly less than. No, I'm not actually. That's completely right. Still drifting off that way. Feeling it going. Well, no, it's not actually that bad. This looks to be quite a large lump that I'm about to go over. I seem to have chosen the most lumpy route possible to get there. So this is actually kind of relaxing. I don't know. To adjust my. I was going slightly up, and because of the way the script works, any deviation from directly up is going to affect my velocity. So that's probably one of the reasons why I'm keeping, you know, moving from one direction. I'm having to correct the RCS, and the RCS isn't perfectly balanced, and so that actually gives me a bit of a tilt, which contributes in its own way to the problem. Man, I would not like to land anything substantial around here. This is very, very lumpy terrain. I don't think there's been very little, I think, that's been flat enough to really land. I mean, this has got a fairly wide base. But actually it could have been done with being wider. I think the next one I'm going to put these legs much higher up, in fact. So, because I got, when it lands, if you think there's actually, look at all this, there's all this clearance here, right? Which means that the center of gravity is quite high, relatively speaking. If I put the landing legs more at the top, so that the level of landing is there, and so the legs are coming off that way, in that kind of level. The center of gravity is going to be a lot lower, and that's the whole thing is going to be a lot more stable. I put the legs on the bottom because that's kind of where you think legs go. Legs go on the bottom. But that isn't necessarily the best place to put them. I'm going up, so I'm going to use some of my downward thrust. To minimize the bounce effect. Now I am traveling. Let's slow myself down a bit. I'm feeling a bit nervous. Going quite fast now, nearly 40 meters a second. That's nearly, so I'm getting up to 80 miles an hour now. Might not be very clever. Yeah, don't like that. So that's slowed me down to about 60 miles an hour. Whether that's because that was in fact wise and clever of me, or whether I'm just a scaredy cat, I don't know. And I'm currently very high up in the air. I'm about 10 meters above my normal, so I must have gone over a hill or something. Or possibly the change from doing that to doing that. So I'm going to bounce a bit, but I should be alright. Again, I'm going really uphill again. Still in the Midlands, but these Midlands are quite clearly more up than anything else. That's the Pallas V, which I think is my target, but Madball's saying that way. That might be the anti-target rather than the target. What was that? What have I got targeted? Maybe I don't have anything targeted. Well, I'm within 3 kilometers now of my navigation target, if not my ship target, because those are two different things. Should be interesting to see how close you get. I actually don't know how close you get before it says you are now entering this place. I don't know how close you need to be before it says that. Clearly, less than 3 kilometers. And then obviously I'm going to start thinking about stopping. Drifting off that way again. I did land quite a way away from that original point, so this is taking a while, and getting to the next one should be a lot easier. Well, it should be just as easy. It should just be quicker. Let's bring that up. Let's move you to. Let's get rid of the alarm clock. Don't need that. Let's put away the alarm clock one. Okay. Still doing alright in the Delta V problem. I'm going to start worrying when I get to about 1,000 Delta V. You need about 600 to get off and into orbit. But given that I'm going to be on a reasonably inclined orbit, and I'm going to want to rendezvous and do various other things, it's quite nice to have some extra. So, and if I really cared about my Delta V, I'd be doing things much more efficiently. I'd have rocketed right there, right from the first. But I didn't, so there you go. And if I was doing these videos ahead of time, I would probably be speeding this bit up, but I hadn't, so I probably wouldn't be able to get it done in time to do any funky editing. Just keep Well, so I'm within a click and a half. Going pretty straight. Now, is it going to be within 1 kilometer that it tells me that I've arrived? Let's get where I can actually see that. No, it's not. Do hope I am in fact pointing in the right direction. Wow. Okay, I haven't entered it yet. To turn a bit. Turning is one of the things that's actually that is reversed, because it's assuming when it turns, it's assuming that you're pointing upwards. Ah, there we go. Right, so let's stop. I'm gonna do some curious thing. Oh no, that's exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do. So it seems to be within about 500 meters is when they start saying you've arrived. Okay, so I'm going to bounce a little bit because I... Oh, again, one thing. Because when you go that, when I go that way, it increases the thrust so that the vertical component still keeps me upright. But then I move back, and because this isn't tuned very well, it doesn't adjust quickly enough. So let's head downwards. And you can also see I've actually managed to put one of my solar panels, but only one of them, into an action group that that is the same action group as my go down the step. I have another PID tuning thing which actually works off velocity rather than absolute position, and it is in fact one of the suggestions that you in fact tune. You actually do this kind of hover script with a nested PID thing, where I'm going up at that point. Yeah, I am. You have a nested PID where one PID is speed, so I can say I want to go at -4 meters per second, and it'll go, okay, you will go at -4 meters per second, so it'll drift down at a nice safe landing speed. Or I can say I want to go at 0 meters a second, and okay, fine, 0 meters per second it is. I might look for a slightly less. This is quite a slopey place. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, so you have one PID that just does speed, and you have an outer PID, and that's the one that's trying to get you to the altitude, and what that sets is the speed set point of the speed controller. And I think that's just a really interesting idea. I'm going to afford to go a little bit quicker down. I think 9 meters. I can't remember when it thinks I've landed. So I can use the burner engines for fine control to try and... This is quite slippery. I think I'm going to be alright. Right, put on the brakes, and that's going to turn everything off. And they're going to. I have to. I'm turning off RCS. Oh shit! Why is it still? Was that still going? That's still on. Whoa! That was entertaining. Why did that one? Why did that one keep going when that one stopped? That's very strange. Anyway, I've stopped after all that. And so now I log the temperature, and I now have that. I'm not going to keep it. But I have now gained. Whoop, no, do that again. So I gained 90 science and 28 Kerbal bucks. And now I just have to do the same thing, only for alpha. What fun, eh? Well, so I'm not going to subject you to that. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've been enjoying these videos. Hit like and subscribe if so. You can also find Nearly Enough Dice, which is our role-playing game team podcast and blog, at nearlyenoughdice.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and so forth. So just search for us around there. But until we meet again, reach for the stars.